60,000 dirhams, it's too much for a family of 4 in the UAE to live off. Let me break it down for you, because we've been here for 3 years. I'm an accountant from the UK and the UAE, and I really do value the concept of not living paycheck to paycheck. So for me, a family of 4, you should be earning at around about 60,000 dirhams per month. Now that equates to around £13,379 GBP per calendar month. Yes, that sounds like a lot, but this is household income. So combined, if mum and dad are working, is what you should be bringing in to the household. Let me break it down and explain the actual costs for like schools, which I get asked so much about, healthcare, utilities, bills, foods, all of that kind of stuff. Now for rental, for example, you could get something like this, which is quite fancy. It's a 3,000 square foot apartment, 4 bedrooms, which is about 240,000 a year. It's to about 60,000 per annum in just rent. Now that is something in Dubai Marina, so it's quite okay, really, really nice. Let's look at something a bit more normal, something like this. It would be 170 per annum, and it would be kind of like a small villa in a compound, 3,000 square foot with 4 bedrooms again. So that's around £40,000 per annum in rent. Now that's kind of like average. We can go by like Property Finder, which is one of the kind of like a Rightmove equivalent. So this will have your annual rent for a studio, 2 bedroom and a 4 bed villa. So a 4 bed villa would be around 200 to 265. Now the sale price for that villa would be about 5 million to 6 million, which is about £1 million to about £1.2 million. So the cost of the properties are higher, and therefore the rent would obviously be a little bit more than it would be in the UK. Now I get this asked a lot because health insurance now is not a must in the UAE. It's not something that you have to have. But if you do want to get health insurance, then these are the plans that kind of like an average price. So for a family of 4, premium healthcare would be about 70,000 dirhams, which is around £15,000 per annum for all of you. Now, this is quite a good one. Breakdown of rent, utilities, groceries, and then the total figure at the bottom. And this is a per month charge. So when we were looking at rental properties earlier, I'm looking at like high-end type of rental properties, loads of floor space. This price here is more so for a very standard, bog standard place that you could stay at. So in total, utilities, with all of those groceries, leisure, transport, education, all of that would come to about 22 to 37,000. Now, education, I'm not going to include in that because I will go through that next. This is one of the questions that I get asked a lot. Now, this just means that you have lots of people thinking about taking their children to the UAE. Now, for public schools, for expats, that's kind of like the general schools. But a lot of us from the UK will want to follow that British curriculum. So when we go, we're going to be looking at like British schools out here. So many in the UAE, but one of the ones in the UAE is something like BSAC, you've got BSAD, you've got Brighton School, Repton, Cranley. There's so many in Abu Dhabi, as well as in Dubai. The annual fees from about 20,000 to 87,000. Now, it depends on what year your child is in. So for my 2 child, it's about 57,000 dirhams a month, and for my year, or he's in reception, it's about 50,000 dirhams a year. So that is probably a little bit cheaper than UK private schooling, and the quality of the schools, I would say, in my opinion, is just so much better. So taking all of that into consideration, this is my split of that 60,000 dirhams. So straight off the bat, I would put 20% away. That leaves you with about 48,000 dirhams. Now, that is where you would actually be using that money to actually pay for your bills, etc., etc. So if you think about a family of 4, that example that we had previously, so if we take this example for 37,460 for a family of 4, this is what it would be without the health insurance that you may be paying for if you open up a company yourself. So adding that on, it would take you up to about 39,000 dirhams per calendar month. Now that is a minimum, and then on top of that you need that 20% saving so that you can actually invest in things and actually excel in life. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that's not how you want to be going about business in the UAE. Also, this is not taking into account any car payments that you might have, because car payments will not be between 1,500 and 3,700. They will be a little bit more than that. If you're taking public transport, that's what you're looking at. So if you are thinking about car payments, you also need to think about down payments. You also need to think about rent in advance. So I hope that gives you a bit of clarity. If you've got any ideas on what it is to live in the UAE, or give an example of how you actually minimize your expenses as a family of 4, then please put them in the comments below, because I'm sure it will help a lot of people, because a lot of people are thinking of moving and they want to figure out how much they actually have to earn.